Hello AOS fans, it's me Pete. I'm coming to you not with a deck video, not with a battle report, but a little summary today. Robin already got his Grand Clash summary out earlier in the week, and I figured, I should probably do one too. You guys might care, you might not, I don't know, but I figured I'd give you my tuppenny worth on the whole matter. So the best part of a week has passed now and the dust has settled. Some people have already started posting up their how things went for them reports, and I'll be honest, this one's probably not going to be at the same level as a lot of them, because a lot of those guys were talking about how they got into the top 10 or the top 20 or whatever, and I'm just glad I made 53rd. So we'll crash on with a quick summary of my matches. First match was against Andrew Marlowe, one of our Patreon supporters. It was brilliant to play Andrew first. It really took the initial nerves off of things, but I still was shaking like a leaf in that first game. I don't know why. Hopefully, Andrew, you weren't as nervous as I was, and I'm very grateful that you were my first, as it were to say. Andrew was playing Eyes of the Nine, and the scores were 14-17 to Andrew and 10-17 to Andrew. So overall 24-34. A rebound in one game could have made all the difference. It could have killed a Vortimus, and Andrew was playing a big magic heavy deck with Vortimus being the key star player. I just couldn't kill him off quick enough when I wanted to. So I'd say that even though I had a few sucky dice rolls, Andrew was definitely the better player there, and the better man won. Second game, I played against Jay Clare, who obviously was in the final himself. He'd lost the previous match. I think he'd had some terrible luck, which meant he was still languishing at the bottom, and then he ended up coming up against me. But then his deck came into its own, and the games were not so pretty. It was 21-9 to Jay, and then 17-13 to Jay. The 17 match being one where I managed to kill off Ilthari. His key playstyle was very similar to the previous one. Big up Ilthari. I think at one point he had like 5 wounds on her, 4 defense dice, and -1 damage on all hits that came in. So she really did become impossible to kill. In the second game, I fluffed up as well. In the second game, I placed things so I could have got Scritch in there. I could have scored calculated risk with a charge into Ilthari. I had Potion of Rage, and I had Ready for Action. I could have done all of that. I could have possibly got a double charge off and killed Ilthari turn 1, and I forgot to charge through the Lethal Hex. And when I realised that afterwards, it was far too late, because I'd already rolled dice and all that kind of stuff. So I did manage to kill Ilthari in that second game, which is why the score for him went down from 21 to 17, I think. But overall, Galagan then became impossible to shift, and I couldn't kill him off either. So overall, I lost that game 38 to 22. In the third game, I played against John, another one of our Patreon supporters, and it was great to play John. It's great to meet up with all the Patreon supporters there. The matches went my way in the end. The first game was 7-all. I completely forgot to run somebody on an objective, because I did wipe John out in both games. He was playing the Curse Breakers, as I say, and my deck seemed to be Curse Breaker specific in the end. Turns out I made a really good Curse Breaker killy deck. That is not to say that that's what saved me, though. John's dice were horrific, and I had to go and buy him a drink afterwards, because I felt so sorry for him with the way his dice were going. The scores were 7-all, and I managed to win that one because I had wiped him out. And then the second game was 15-8. I can't remember if I wiped him out in the second game as well, but overall I put that game a large amount down to the fact that John's dice just hated him more than anything I've ever seen. So that was my first win. So I'm up 1 game, 2 down. Fourth game, I met a gentleman called James. He was playing Moloch. I was terrified by this. And the scores there were actually really close. One game was 16-17 to him, and the other one was 9-11 to him. So overall, I lost 25 to 28. James was a lovely guy. His deck was very Moloch-centric, as you would expect, and very offensive. In the first game, I think he pulled out Inspiration Strikes, and he had the Tomb of Offerings, which is the perfect starter for Moloch. And I think he also got Inspiration Strikes first out in the second game as well. But I managed to kill Moloch in the second game. I can't remember about the first, but I was really happy with that. I may have lost it, but I only lost it by about 3 glory overall. Had things been slightly different on a few dice, I remember at one point he attacked Scritch with Moloch. He won the roll-off, and he got 1 hit on his dice, and I had 3 defense dice and I rolled 3 shields. I just needed one thing. Scritch wouldn't have survived. I possibly could have killed Moloch. Might have won that second game, bring it on to a third. You never know. So it was a loss, but I'm taking it as a moral victory. So I was 3-1 down. And the third game I came up against David, who also had a Stormsire Curse Breakers deck. This one highlights me just how much of a gap there was between some of the older warbands and some of the newer warbands when it came to generating glory. Because in both games against David, being Stormsire and my deck evidently being an anti-Stormsire deck, I wiped him out both games, possibly by the end of the second round in the first game, I think. And I had to spend the whole of the third round drawing cards, picking things up, and eventually in both games I managed to pick up Escalation, managed to score enough to then get that and also to get superior tacticians. I mean, both games I ended up picking up like another 5 glory in the very third round, but the scores in both games, it was 16-15 to me and 13-12 to me. So despite really hammering all of it, hammering his guys and killing a lot of them, I really didn't pull that far ahead on glory. I did win, but so very close, and it really made me think, wow, that was really tough. If I hadn't been paying attention in both those games, I possibly would have lost them both, purely because even though I wiped him out, he was still generating glory left, right and centre. So that was an interesting thing for me to experience, and something that I don't think I've seen before. So those are my games. I won 2, I lost 3, I came 53rd I think in the end. Now 53rd, there were 82 people playing, that puts me just inside the middle third of the entire league, which is sort of where I wanted, mid-table obscurity. That's what I wanted to have. Could have very possibly, with a few different dice rolls, gone both ways. I could have ended up winning possibly 3 or even 4 games depending on my dice. And technically I was the best Swarm player there, because there was only one other Swarm player there. If you look at Wigglehammer's report on the whole event, how everyone did, it's really great read. Unfortunately, the 2 times when I did win a round, he neglected to mention how the Swarm did in each of those rounds. So yeah, whilst I did okay, none of it ever got highlighted anywhere. But that's fine. I didn't, obviously it's not all about me on that one. Like I say, at the start I was absolutely shaking like a leaf. When we first got there, Robin and I were both pretty nervous, but we bumped into several Patreon Sports and YouTube followers fairly early on in the day, and it was just awesome to have some people come up to us and say, hi, I am the face behind the virtual name online, and I absolutely love your stuff, and I'm really happy to meet you. And that made the whole thing worthwhile. It doesn't matter how far down the tables we came, just meeting some of you guys and having you say, hey, love your channel. And we even had some people come up to us, like whilst we were mid-conversation, just say, sorry, don't want to interrupt too much, but I just want to say I really love your channel, can I have a selfie? That was brilliant. I absolutely loved that. And it wasn't the showbiz kind of stardom factor that it's very small, but there's a little bit there. It was just the fact having people come up and saying, love what you do on the channel, love watching you guys. It just makes all of the hassle, because there's a lot of work, worthwhile. It really did make our day, especially near the end of the day. Robin only won 1 game, and he was feeling especially low because I think he had a few issues with his deck that was capitalised on by all of his players, and he got repeatedly smashed in the face. So he was pretty fed up near the end of the day, and someone came up and asked for a selfie, said they loved the channel, and you made our day. All of you made our days. We got to chat with everybody, and it was just amazing to talk to everyone about the hobby and the channel and everything like that. Also, technically, I think we are the world's greatest at the pub quiz, which we did come first in and got a free drink. Whoop, whoop. And that was great fun as well. So, well done, team. Everybody on our team, you know who you were. Thank you for that. We had the only Orc player there, and we had a few other people. We had another one of our Patreon supporters as well. So, it was great to meet you guys. And I will say this, if you have any kind of anxiety or you're worried about going to an event where you don't know anybody and you're not going with anybody, make it a Grand Clash or a tournament, because there are so many friendly people there. You're bound to get chatting to somebody. You're bound to be able to meet up with someone there that you know in some way or have read something about online. And once you've played a game or two, all of that worry, all of that terror, panic, sweats sort of goes away, and you just get into this rhythm. By the second or third game, it's just, get the boards down, roll some dice, get into the swing of the game. And the games really are different when you're playing in a tournament to when you're just playing friendlies against your mate at home or something like that. But a good kind of different. I'm not sure which I prefer, but it was definitely worth doing, and I would say to anybody, if you're going to go to an event, just do it. You will not regret it. It's great fun. Now, this is the first 2-day Grand Clash, and there's some question marks around, is it better? Supposedly, and I'm using air quotes that you can't see, it's better to help define a proper, who is definitely the best. Obviously, the best player is going to win more games out of the more games that you play. So just playing 4 games may not give you the best indication of that. But as I spoke to one of the guys there, you dropped from 160 attendance in the previous Grand Clash to 80 something. That's a pretty significant drop, because not everybody can get an entire weekend away from family, friends, commitments. And on the Sunday, it was a little bit sad, because if you were there first thing in the morning, you had the 16 finalists who were all playing their games, but the rest of Warhammer World was empty, and it was just a bit, oh wow. So this is the climax of the Grand Clash 2-day event. It was pretty anticlimactic, to be honest. So I'm not really sure whether doing a 2-day event to determine who's definitely the better, air quotes, player really does the hobby as much good. I mean, obviously those 16 players, they had great time. They got to play for 2 days, and we played a couple of games against people as well on that second day. But I'm not sure if that's better for the game overall, getting less people to these big events, because I think the more people you can get to an event, the better. And surely they could fit 5 games. Well, we did fit 5 games in one day. Surely they could fit 5 games and a final in that day. Surely they've got to be able to do that. Surely. Anyway, but I had great fun and I loved meeting everybody there. It was a bit sad to see that in the top 16, only one Shadespire warband made it in. I believe that was Magor. There were not very many Shadespire warbands overall, and I think it is fair to say that the Shadespire warbands do suffer because of scope creep with the second sets of warbands coming in. There's a lot of 2-dodge warbands, there's a lot of extra abilities and all that kind of stuff that I think just makes them better. And that's, no one's direct fault, but it's just a nature of the hobby. And it'd be nice to see them do something to contract that. Robin had the idea that whoever comes top of their warband, so, if there's 5 Magor players and the top Magor player goes through to the top 16 to play, that kind of thing, because there are 16 warband slots. It might encourage people to take more less common warbands there. There were no Garruk's Reavers at this event, and I was tempted to take Garruk. I kind of wish I had as well, because on the Sunday I played a game with Garruk and I scored 19 glory with him in a game, and that's probably the most glory I scored. That was more glory than in any of my matches with my Skaven, so maybe I should have taken my Garruk deck. But anyway, I reckon maybe they should just say, these are the lowest tier warbands, so you know what, they don't have to care about the bar list, take whatever you like, or just, they don't have any restrictions, just the band list applies to them, something like that. I don't know, just needs something to mix it all up again, because it can get a bit dull seeing the same 4 or 5 warbands in the top slots all the time. I also do think that it's a little bit unfair, and this is nothing personal guys, but to have GW staff and playtesters at the event is maybe giving them a bit of an unfair advantage, especially when you release a new set of cards not a week or so before that event and you allow them to be played, because all of these GW staff and all of these playtesters, they will have seen those cards for weeks and weeks, and they will have already come up with loads of strategies for them, whereas us mere mortals will only have had them for a week. We really won't have had that long to work out which ones we really do and do not want, and I don't know if that made a big difference in the end, because it wasn't, I don't think, a playtester or a GW staff member that won it, but it'd be interesting to see how many of those top 16 were staff or playtesters, because you know what, I think that's maybe a little unfair, and you could just argue, well, they're obviously just better players, but should getting early access to stuff be allowed in that instance? I don't think that they should have allowed that new set of cards, frankly. Personally, I don't think they should have been allowed in there. They came out too late. It's a bit like at the very first Grand Clash where Rue won with the Skeletons, who literally came out that day. So he'd been playtesting them for weeks or months or however long, and nobody had even seen them, but he trots up on the day of the Grand Clash with them, and he wins, because obviously no one has a clue how to kill them, or how to even fight against them, or any of their weaknesses. And I do think that's unfair. So those are 2 possible slight negatives that I have that came out of the Grand Clash. But overall, very positive experience. Will we be back? Yes, definitely we will be back. Can't make the October, September one, whenever that is. It's just too close, unfortunately. But, maybe early next year we'll be looking to come back again. So if any of you are planning on going to a Grand Clash, maybe start to put some dates aside early next year and you might see us there. And some people have asked us, will it change how we play on the channel? And we did ask a few people as well, how do you prefer the new content that we're doing? And a lot of people have said that they don't actually mind how we play for the most part. They like the bants, they like to hear our thoughts, and they like to see the decks we come up with, because we're not just doing the same uber offensive, ultra competitive decks every time. So, I don't think it's going to change our play style at all, and we're probably going to keep things mostly as they are. We might, speed up a little bit, but overall I think we're going to keep things how they're going for the time being, because it's going to get boring if we just keep trying to do ultra competitive decks all the time. We want to keep mixing things up. Frankly, I'm looking forward to putting Skaven back in the box for a while and picking up somebody else, maybe some Thundrix, maybe some Fast Riders, maybe some Oryx. You never know. So let us know what you thought about at the Grand Clash. Did you meet us? Say hello in the comments below if you did. And you know what? If you didn't meet us but you want to, then like I say, keep your ears open. We might be there early next year at the next Grand Clash. Bye!